Hi, I'm Mike, PokeTips Mike, and happy October! It's officially spooky season. And one of the spookiest things right now is Pokémon Sword and Shield because we're getting new information on a Tuesday. So here's the deal. Game Informer, a video game website and magazine, had a few of their employees travel all the way out to Tokyo, Japan to visit Game Freak's headquarters. While they were there, they got some exclusive behind-the-scenes information about Sword and Shield, which they decided to drop today. Now in these articles, they're talking about a lot of stuff from Sword and Shield. Some of it is totally new information, and some of it is stuff that we already know. So I'm gonna go through it with you, and basically tell you what I find the most interesting. So starting things off, we're gonna jump right into the big one, the one that has me the most excited out of all of this. On the Game Informer digital magazine, they shared with us a section called How Different Are Sword and Shield? And it reads, Pokemon games have traditionally released in pairs, with the titles featuring some different Pokemon and other smaller differences. For example, in Sun and Moon, the day and night cycles were reversed, affecting certain items and encounters during different parts of the cycle. Pokemon Sword and Shield carry on the tradition of certain Pokemon being exclusive to each version, but based on which version you get, the gym leaders are also affected. According to director Shigeru Omori, the gyms are split into a system resembling major and minor sports leagues. There are 18 different types of gyms in the story, and depending on the version, which gyms are in the minor league and which gyms are in the major league are different. For example, in Sword, the fighting type gym will be in the major league, but in Shield, the ghost type. The idea is that every year the Galar region is playing, and which gyms make it into the minor league versus the major league changes. Oh my god. That is huge! 18 gyms for Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is very, very, very cool. For the longest time, Pokemon games have stuck to the tradition of just having 8 gyms per region. Alola really shook it up, and instead of gym leaders, we had trials, and now that gyms are back in Sword and Shield, they wanted to spice up the formula a little bit more. But I totally love this. So there's 18 different types of Pokemon and 18 different gyms. So if I was gonna make a guess here, I would say there's going to be one gym for each type of Pokemon. The whole minor league, major league thing sounds really interesting to me too, because that means all 18 gym leaders are going to be in both versions. However, in Sword version, some of the gym leaders are going to be more prominent, and the others are going to be, less important. In Shield version, it's going to be the opposite. The ones that are less important in Sword are going to be more important in Shield, and so on. I'm also wondering, since there's 18 gym leaders, when you cut that in half, that's 9. Is the Galar region gonna have you collect 9 gym badges? And also, I'm wondering what collecting the minor league gym badges are gonna do for you as well, because they don't seem like they're gonna be as important. Are the minor leagues even gonna hand out gym badges? Or is it going to be more open world, where you could collect maybe 8 of the gym badges and one of them is just like an optional type thing? I don't think that's very likely, but that would be kind of cool if you could do your choose your own adventure type thing and just skip one of the gym leaders and choose the 8 that you want to go for. Either way, I am so excited for this because this is just a huge formula change for Pokemon, having so many different gym leaders. I've been itching and itching and itching to hear more about the story and how it's going to be different than all the other Pokemon games, and I really like the way this sounds so far. I hope they can keep this up. And on top of that, there's 6 more articles on the Game Informer website that tell you more and more about Sword and Shield. This trip to Japan was definitely worth it. The first one talks about max raid battles, saying that they could be among Pokemon's most challenging encounters. Most of the article talks about stuff we already know, like Dynamax and Gigantamax, and how max raid battles are going to be in the overworld with multiple people. However, what I do find very interesting is the difficulty. The planning director Kazumasa Iwo, and I really hope I said that right, I'm so bad at pronouncing things, said that you shouldn't expect to walk right in and take down the highest ranked beast. He said, even for me, a seasoned Pokemon player, even if I go with one of the 5-star max raid battles, I can definitely run into situations where I'm not able to win. I recently got back into Pokemon Go on my phone, and I know max raid battles are going to be very similar to Pokemon Go, and in Go, if you don't have the right Pokemon and you don't have enough people, you can definitely lose to some of those high-ranking raid bosses, even if your Pokemon are amazing. It's really about the teamwork. And since max raid battles in Sword and Shield are kind of inspired by the ones in Pokemon Go, they were designed around the same time, I could expect the same thing happening in Sword and Shield. Make sure you go with strong partners. Now this next article over here talks about autosave. So Pokemon Sword and Shield are going to have an auto-saving feature. Now most video games have this nowadays, where when you just walk around, the game saves your progress for you automatically. You don't have to go open up the menu and do it manually, and this is going to be a huge first for the Pokemon series. However, there is an option, and I'm so glad they put this in, there is an option for us to go back to manual saving. What most of us do now to shiny hunt is save right in front of the legendary, and then interact with it, and if it's not shiny, reset the game and try again. Autosave, if it was on, would kill that feature because it would save when you're in the battle and when you fought the Pokemon and everything, but since we could turn it off, it's not really a big issue, and it's great to have the ability to have autosave on or off. The third article talks about Pokemon cut from Sword and Shield's national Pokedex will return in the future. Again, it's nothing we didn't know already. This is basically reiterating stuff they said previously, and I've covered it so many times, but basically, all Pokemon that aren't going to be in Sword and Shield will be playable with, you'll be able to interact with them in Pokemon Home, and then in future Pokemon games, they plan on bringing them back. I am not a fan of them cutting the national Pokedex down and not having compatibility with all the Pokemon in Sword and Shield, but it is what it is now, and it looks like they're not going to change it. Article number 4 talks about how HMs are not in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, I think at this point we all really expected them not to be in Sword and Shield. They were removed from Sun and Moon completely, they were removed from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, so it seems like Pokemon as a series is done with HM moves. They might return in like a remake of an older game that had them, but I think all new games going forward are probably going to have HMs removed. Again, according to the planning director, he said that they didn't really think that they matched the concept of Pokemon Sword and Shield, especially with the wild area and wanting to have a higher degree of freedom. Article number 5 is kind of interesting. This one talks about the Exp Share and how it's not an item anymore. Instead, the Exp Share is basically integrated into the mechanics of Sword and Shield, so your whole team automatically gets EXP just like it would with the Exp Share. However, what the scary thing is here is the article does not mention if you can turn this option off. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had an automatically always on EXP Share that you couldn't turn off, so I'm hoping they don't do the same thing in Sword and Shield because I love the EXP Share, but it's always good to give the players the option to choose if they want to use it or not. Maybe it'll be in the settings to turn it off, who knows, we don't know as of right now, but we definitely have some sort of EXP Share in the game. And finally, the last bit of information we had revealed to us today was an article titled, Pokemon Sword and Shield have mechanics to let you use your favorite Pokemon competitively. Ooh, ran out of breath saying that one. Now I'm gonna read this one to you because this one is actually pretty big. This is what the planning director had to say. Traditionally, in the series, you start off with your starter Pokemon, and then you catch a lot of Pokemon in the beginning, and those are with you throughout your whole adventure and the player gets attached to them. But a lot of times, they get into competitive battles and they find out they actually can't use those Pokemon, or they're not competitive, so they have to go out and find the exact right Pokemon or breed them in certain ways to make sure they're viable in competitive battle. This time around, we really wanted to introduce some systems that help the player be able to take those Pokemon caught in the beginning and the first one they chose and actually take them straight into competitive battle. There are a lot of hidden parameters to Pokemon that aren't surfaced to the player. We're doing a lot of stuff in the back end introducing systems that allow players to make sure that Pokemon they want to use in competitive battles are viable. And now that sounds pretty vague, and when the Game Informer interviewer pressed him on about it, he said that I've got to be very vague about it, but one example, it will be visible to the player and they'll know when they see it. Now that does sound very vague and very wordy, and a little bit later he goes on into a little bit more detail about it. The director said, say you have a Pokemon where it's got all the right stats and everything, but there's a personality parameter as well that comes into play in battles, and it might not be the right personality. So normally, you'll breed until you get the right one, but you'll see there's a system in-game that will fix that for people. Now, when he talks about right personality, I'm assuming he means the natures that all Pokemon have, like adamant, jolly, modest, and so on. Based on what he's saying here, there might be a system in Pokemon Sword and Shield that allows you to change a Pokemon's nature. Again, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, this was experimented with, but it only affected Pokemon that you captured after you set up the setting. In Sword and Shield, based on the very vague statement that he's making over here, it sounds like there might be somebody in the game that lets you change the nature of your Pokemon, which would save you so much time if you're trying to get that competitive Pokemon just perfect. We already have Hyper Training now, which will basically give you max IVs in whatever stat you want, so being able to change your Pokemon's nature is basically the last thing we need to be able to customize any Pokemon and take it from 0 to competitive easily. And if that's true, that'll be awesome for competitive players. So again, that was a lot of Pokemon information to just randomly drop on a Tuesday, but I'm so happy we got all this stuff. It's October now, and the games come out next month, so I can only assume we're gonna be getting lots of Sword and Shield information every week now, and it's gonna be crazy. In the comments below, tell me what you think of having 18 gym leaders and the rest of all this stuff that was revealed today. I am super excited the more I hear about this game, and I cannot wait until November to get my hands on it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon content like this, and my friends, I'll be seeing you in the next one.